Communism fails every time it's tried, not because it has not been tried correctly, but because it is antithetical to human nature.
Marxists and Christians have a common mission? What? I'm sorry, what? Excuse me? Didn't the church condemn this? Brent Haynes, a Catholic attorney, friend of the show, Catholic freedom fighter, joins us to discuss. Well, I mean, like, this is the most bizarre thing. I mean, let's just spin this as positively as we can. Okay, so the Pope meets, apparently, with a group of Marxists, and he's trying to find common ground, meet them where they're at. But isn't this dangerous in the sense that how many Jesuits in Latin America have bit off on the liberation theology, Marxist, Sandinista, communist theology, and now might see this as somehow endorsing their ideas and making it okay? The whole time they were right is what they're going to say.
In fact, in 2019, America Magazine, the Jesuit magazine, published an article called The Case for Communism. And they showed a picture of the leader of Bolivia handing a so-called communist crucifix to Pope Francis. Of course, it's not surprising American Magazine would publish that, unfortunately. But you said, let's put this in the most positive light. You know, the Holy Father, to his credit, really does try to reach out to people. He really does try to reach out to people he feels are marginalized, you know, the poor, migrants, minorities. You know, he has a good heart in that sense. And in the sense that communists in some form want to achieve the ultimate happiness of mankind, well, yes, I guess you could say that they have that in common with Christianity. But really, that's about as far as you can go. Communism is diametrically opposed to Christianity. Communism from the beginning aimed and still aims to destroy the entire social order. Now, those aren't my words. I mean, those are the words of the Marxists themselves. You know, they want to destroy the entire social order, including family, property, and, of course, religion. Communism, of course, is where the phrase comes from. Religion is the opiate of the masses, or the opium of the masses. That comes from a translation of a German phrase, because Karl Marx was German. He wrote it in German. It comes from the translation of a German phrase by Karl Marx from one of his writings. But Karl Marx and other communists have made this clear from the very beginning. So it's not surprising that the communists themselves believe that Christian socialism is an oxymoron. It's a contradiction in terms. Paul Kengor wrote a very good short piece in the National Catholic Register, and he cites a lot of the quotations from the early communists, from Karl Marx, and you know, he gives a good brief description of how it is incompatible with Catholicism.
Oh, can I just quote this real quick, because I think this is important. Let me give a quick contrast here. In the article that states yesterday Pope Francis met with Marxists at the Vatican, the article, which we're going to link to, says he said it was, quote, important to overcome rigid, divisive approaches, conduct disputes, and with an open heart, and listen to one another without excluding anyone on political, social, and religious grounds. That's what, you know, I read that poorly, but that's what Pope Francis said yesterday. Paul Kengor, in his article over the Register, again, we're going to quote it, quoting Pope Pius XI, said that those, quote, who want to be apostles among socialists ought to profess Christian truth whole and entire, openly and sincerely, and not connive at error in any way. If they truly wish to be heralds of the gospel, let them above all strive to show the socialists that socialist claims, so far as they are just, are far more strongly supported by the principles of Christian faith and the power of Christianity. In other words, you don't shirk the truth. I mean, that's a clear contrast between Pope Pius XI and now Pope Francis, don't you think?
It's not just Pope Pius XI. The church has consistently and forcefully condemned communism from the beginning. The Communist Manifesto was published in 1848. And in 1849, Pope Pius IX wrote in an encyclical, Nostos et Nobiscum, and he condemned socialism and communism just 1 year after the Communist Manifesto. In 1864, He published his syllabus of errors with his encyclical Quanta Cura. So that was only 15 years later, so only 16 years after the publication of the Communist Manifesto. Then, of course, a lot of Catholics are familiar with Pope Leo XIII's Rerum Novarum, and that condemned communism. And people will say it also condemned capitalism. The church basically condemns extremes. In 1931, Pope Pius XI issued Quadragesimo Anno. In 1937, Divini Redemptoris. In 1949, the Supreme Congregation of the Holy Office under the Pius XII issued the Decree Against Communism. In 1965, Pope Paul VI wrote Gaudium et Spes, which condemns materialism and atheism. In 1991, Pope John Paul II, on the 100th anniversary of Rerum Novarum, published Sanctissimus Annus, one of the more prominent encyclicals in recent times. And there, Pope John Paul II explicitly defended the right to private property. I mean, the church has just been consistent from the beginning because the church understands that communism is antithetical. And on that, at least, the communists and Pope Pius XI agreed. You know, Pope Pius XI said religious socialism, Christian socialism are contradictory terms. And he also stated, and this is a quote, and people can look this up in the Paul Kingle article, he quotes it, no one can be at the same time a good Catholic and a true socialist. Yeah. So why? Why can't you be a good Catholic and a good socialist? Communism is antithetical to individual rights. And this isn't just a matter of secular rights in terms of a secular Western democratic society versus communism, where we have, say, the right to free speech or other rights that we recognize in America, for example. Communism is a groupthink philosophy. It is a philosophy of the collective. The very basis of communism is that all of history and all of mankind can be understood as a struggle between classes. And communism divides people into economic classes, and especially, of course, the classes of labor and capital. And that there's just this struggle that is occurring that will eventually result in the dictatorship of the proletariat. Christianity believes in an individual relationship between every individual human being and Jesus Christ. You know, what does the church teach? What have priests taught from the beginning? What do the Gospels say? Jesus was the Son of God. He came down to earth, and we are to have a relationship with him. Jesus doesn't save us in groups. The church doesn't save people or spread the gospel to people as some sort of just group message that you can only participate in or enjoy or succeed in if you're part of some economic class. So there's that contradiction right there from the beginning, that communism really doesn't recognize people as people. They only recognize people if they are individual persons, if they're a member of a group. Second, of course, communism is antithetical to religious liberty. You know, that's why Karl Marx said religion is the opium or opiate of the masses. Marxists really want to get rid of the family. They want to get rid of property rights. And of course, they want to get rid of religious liberty because they cannot allow the idea of a better life in the future, because the whole aim of Marxism is to achieve a better life in the here and now. They believe in the perfectibility of mankind. They really believe in heaven on earth, to use a colloquial phrase. Communism is antithetical to property rights. The abolition of property rights has serious implications for human behavior. Property rights are based in part, on human nature. And look, Joe, every time communism has been tried, it has failed. Communism has been tried for more than 100 years in many different places around the globe. Mm-hmm. And when you bring this up with an advocate of communism, what do they say? It seems like they always say the same thing. Advocates of communism always claim it hasn't really been tried. Communism fails every time it's tried, not because it has not been tried correctly, but because it is antithetical to human nature. The Pope, God bless him, literally, he really does want to reach out to people, but the church has spoken against communism for over 100 years. We should take this statement, in context of all the church's teachings, and we'll see if he says anything else more specific about it in the future.
Did you like that video? It's okay. You can admit it. It's perfectly fine. Hey, we cover the big stories of our day, from inside the church to outside the church to all points in between, and we do it from a Catholic perspective. It's called A Catholic Take. It's a radio program Monday through Friday. We live stream it right here on this channel, by the way, so make sure to subscribe, like, and share. We would be very grateful to you. And don't forget, you're going to want to watch this video right here because you don't want to miss anything.